I wrote a virtual reality program so that I could experiment with these ideas and then show them to you. And in the model that you're seeing here, I'm using a cell phone as an example because most people have access to a cell phone. Now you might notice now I've drawn what we call the principal axes on the cell phone. There's a blue axis, a red axis, and a green. These are the maximum, minimum, and intermediate axes. If the cell phone were held on the long side and then spun backward so that it rotates around this red axis, the pink arrow is the angular momentum of the body, then you can see that it would spin stably. And we're going to do this with our objects in just a moment, so just watch for now. If you hold it on the short end and you throw it so that it rotates around this blue axis, then again, the angular momentum is the pink arrow, and we'll see that the phone will spin nice and stably. And those things make sense to us. That works well, and we like things that are stable and understandable. Let's try something that's really confusing. Hold it on the short end again. This time, we're going to rotate it back so that it rotates around the green axis. Remember, pink is the angular momentum. And when it spins this time, you notice that it flips around in the middle. Now we call that the intermediate axis, and this is by its nature an unstable axis. Whenever you flip something around like that, it's going to spin in that really weird way. Now let's take it a little deeper and let's try holding it on a corner, and then we're going to spin it so that it rotates around some other random axis. And what you're going to see is that the behavior in this type of rotation is much more complicated. However, if we can visualize those principal axes, you would notice that the red arrow spins in a circle. And so if we understand the orientation of those axes, then that can help us predict how the motion is going to be. We're going to do a little bit of review here. We start out looking at the minimum axis, remember red arrow. We'll look at the maximum axis, blue arrow, the intermediate, the green arrow, and then some random axis. The minimum axis is nice and stable. That works well. Maximum axis, also nice and stable. Intermediate axis, unstable but somewhat predictable. And a random axis is fairly complicated.